Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the 270 Lounge, where we get to decide another tournament championship tonight. This is Chad Harris. I am the commissioner of the Universal 270 Tournament Champions. Tonight, we have the Senators Tournament Championship. Another preliminary to be decided to see who makes it to the final bracket. Tonight's matchup features Raymund Baroy against Erik York. Last night, we had the House of Representatives final, in which I'm sorry, we had the House of Representatives final in which Zach Algaze punched his ticket to the final bracket, and now this is the Senators tournament that started last Sunday, winding up tonight. We'll get a quick look at the stats as both players are into the game already. Now this is the buffed Tim Scott character. He actually replaced the original Tim Scott that was in there. He has 20% bonuses in African American oil and gas and Old South. One of the few candidates to have bonuses in both the Old South and African American. He also has 15% agriculture, manufacturing, and export. Also has 10% swing states. They buffed him. They did a decent buff job of him. And then you have Rand Paul, one that you definitely don't see in any of the streams for the most part. He doesn't have any penalties. And his bonuses are adequate, nothing spectacular, but adequate enough if you know how to play the game. 15% Old South manufacturing, export, town and gown, and agriculture, manufacturing, Old South, export, and town and gown. So I'll hit my end turn button here. We'll start this match. Here we go. Clash in Georgia right away. Looks like they're both going towards the Old South. Virginia. Again, like I said, the Senators tournament started last Sunday. How the players got to this point. Uh, Raymond defeated James Bandelin in his first round matchup. And then in the next round, he defeated Tossin Lake. And in the semifinals, he defeated Dave Robinson. So Raymond's had some impressive victories. He's had a pretty tough road to the final, but he's played well. I know everybody's seen him in the lounge posting, active with posts and so forth. It's good to see him in a tournament final. Erik York defeated Nevin Stofko in the first round, then defeated Gary V in the quarterfinals, and in the semifinals defeated Conrad Scheffler, who had upset Tyler Barola in the round before that. So it looks like it's going to be a great final between two excellent players. Here we go. Scott gets 2 pips into Florida. Only Louisiana for Rand Paul that turn. As you see, Scott pivoting to the swing states. Sorry about the yawn, guys. It's a little after 11 o'clock on the East Coast. Now, I expect with that low spend there, I expect Rand to nail down the Old South. Tim Scott cannot get swing states on this turn. I don't believe. He has 325. He did get 2 pips into Florida, so you're looking at 100, 200, 270. Yeah, he has enough. He has enough to do it. 270. He would have. You'd spend an even 300,000. Hit my end turn button here as we're in turn 3. Players playing very quickly. It's interesting to see that they're working on buffing up some of the original characters. Of course, everybody knows about the President Biden um, bump, the Bernie Sanders bump, and Tim Scott was bumped up. I saw a post earlier today from Brendan Borman that it looks like George Washington is going to be buffed up a little bit. Of course, a lot of people are wondering where the Ronald Reagan buff up is. I think Ronald Reagan's actually a pretty decent character without it, but we'll see how they develop that. We've heard a lot of references to the 1984 presidential election against Walter Mondale, where Reagan won every state except for Mondale's home state of Minnesota, and he only won that when I was doing some research by about 10,000 total votes. And Mondale won DC as well. So it'd be interesting to see if they decide to um, buff Reagan, how they're going to do that. About halfway through turn 3 of this match. Here we go. Rand Paul getting into Arizona. Definitely has the old South. And there's Tim Scott with the swing states. So a nice pivot done by Tim Scott there as they both get a bonus to start off. I see Renee Lopez in the comments. Good to see you, Renee. I know his second season of Survivor is off and running. I believe it's through a week and a half now. Talking about wait, where's Erik's national groups? um, point well taken. Erik was a player that's really improved his game by through use of employment of national groups. Evident, obviously not using that today. Renee saying Delaney needs a buff. His 35% bonus isn't swing state bonus just isn't enough. Everyone knows he brings so much enthusiasm in a general election. See Devin Fisher saying my bets are on Rand Paul. Good to see everybody in the stream tonight. I know there was a Frozen 4 stream tonight earlier by Jeff Bobrowitz, and I think they're starting to get into conference tournament play. Hit my end turn button here on turn 4. I know that they're going to start winding that up in a little while. Here we go. Scott goes into Alabama and Arizona. Clash in DC. Scott goes into Louisiana and Maryland. Looking to put pressure on looking to get towards that African American bonus, obviously. Going to a lot of the old South states. And Rand Paul locks in Virginia. Virginia is a pretty popular state that gets locked in first. Get a look at the African American bonus so far. Having the old South states has given Rand a slight lead in that state group chase. Ooh, excuse me, guys. I do apologize. I'm swing state battle, not chase. You can call it either or, I guess. Now again, Rand is into New York. Um, and about 415,000 of his cash is pure cash, so he could double pip in New York if he wants. Um, as he would try that would be a way to work towards town and gown. So we will see how this develops here. As Scott got into some of the African American states, like Illinois, Tennessee, put pressure in the old South states, and he did get into Arizona also. About halfway through turn 5. We have two more preliminary tournaments for the TOC starting actually. I'm actually going to start it tomorrow night. Tomorrow night will be a reveal of the brackets for the next two, which is the Independence and the runners-up tournaments. Um, I actually have one of the brackets already completed, but I'm going to present both at the same time tomorrow night. I won't be able to start the brackets for the Independence tournaments as of yet because Erik is also registered to play in the Independence tournament. But if he wins this match tonight, he will be in the final bracket, and we'll have to have somebody take his place. But we'll see what happens as this match goes on. We'll see what happens. If Erik loses this match, he'll be able to play in the Independence tournament. So, um, here we go. Scott steals Arizona. Paul gets into Delaware. And also into Illinois. Into Michigan as well. It's a little cat and mouse right now going on. With both players having their one-state group. Now it's positioning. Like I said before, it looks like they're positioning to try and get the African American bonus, which would be a big benefit to at least Tim Scott. Um, it would be a good idea for Rand Paul to try and get that bonus as to, if for nothing else, to make sure Scott doesn't get it. We're already at turn 6 in the match. Again, I'd like to thank everybody that's tuned into the stream. Don't forget to put your comments in to tell me how you think the match is going. Where do you think they can go next? No, a lot of tournaments and leagues have been going on since the beginning of the year. The RHL started last week, both the White House and the Congress. I know the ATP February tournaments are ongoing right now. I believe the Masters 1000 is in the quarterfinals, I believe. That's run by Zach Algaze. And that's been a good league so far. Again, like I said, Survivor is going on right now. And like I said, they previously mentioned Frozen 4. About halfway through turn 6 here. As I've mentioned, whoever wins this tournament will be the 8th entrant into the Tournament of Champions 2 final bracket. It's a 16-player field for the tournament for the final bracket, as opposed to the 10 players that it was last year. Again, like I said, 7 are already in. Here we go. I'll explain that after this turn. Scott steals Alabama. Big spend for Tim Scott there. Steal of North Carolina for Scott. And there's that third pip into New York for Paul. Paul's going to get the town and gown if nothing else. And there's the African American for Scott. So big steal. So big steal in North Carolina there, helping to get that African American bonus for Scott. And he got into D.C. He got into Delaware. He also stole Alabama by 1 pip. He just got over the line in African American. It's far from a sure thing that he can keep that bonus. As far as the big states, there's no pressure in New York or Florida as of yet. Hit my end turn button there. But Scott does have pressure in the old South states. They clashed in Georgia, so he can basically go as many pips as he wants there. Paul is in Arizona, but Scott's got a pretty good defense built up on that one. And I think this Yarning's telling me after this stream, I'm going to bed. My website, universal270toc.weebly.com, has been running for the TOC. I've been writing blog pieces as the tournaments have progressed. If I don't write it tonight, I will write it at some point tomorrow morning before I go to work, to recap last night's and tonight's matches, along with a preview of the next 2 tournaments. As I was saying, the winner of this match we will have 8 of the 16 qualifiers for the final bracket. Jason Casey is in as the winner of the first TOC in November. Joshua Fisher's in as the winner of the RHL Congress's first season. Troy Moore is in as the RHL White House second season winner. Steve Mohammed won the Vice President's Tournament. Dylan Hales won the United Nations Tournament. Rick Whitmer is in the is in the final bracket, as he was the 2020 Champions Tournament winner. Here we go. Lockdown of Arizona for Scott. Steal of Delaware by Paul. But a steal of Louisiana by Scott. So right now it seems like you would maintain that. Oh, but a steal of Michigan for Paul. That African American bonus should be going away, and it does. And Paul is actually able to take over the high-tech bonus as well. And a very good job of being able to take the high-tech bonus without having to go into Pennsylvania or California. He has the Virginia, Maryland, New York, Massachusetts, Michigan, Utah parlay in order to get that bonus. And as I was just saying before, that turn, we saw what happened on that turn. Yes, I did mention that Rick Whitmore is in as the 2020 Champions Tournament qualifier for the final bracket. Like I said, after this one, there will be 8 spots to go. We should be crowning a final bracket champion on May 4th. On the website I mentioned earlier, you can see the schedule of the tournaments as it's laid out. You can also go to each preliminary tournament that we have to see what candidates are available for those tournaments. Uh, like I said, there's the blog section where I've been writing blog pieces, um, and historical tournament, uh, where you can see who the first event's preliminary champions were. As of right now, besides Jason Casey as the defending champion, the people that are in the final bracket as of now were not in the final bracket last year. So we have six, including this tournament. This will be the 7th fresh face into it. Got about 2 minutes left in turn number 8. Scott has a little bit of a cash advantage here. And now actually Rand Paul has a slight edge in African American thanks to the steal of Michigan. He also stole Delaware. But Louisiana, if Louisiana wasn't taken from that turn, he would have the African American bonus. Here we go. Steal of DC by Rand Paul. Minimal spend there by the players. There's a steal of Louisiana for Paul. But Scott steals Maryland. Defense in North Carolina for Scott. Paul gets into Pennsylvania with that high-tech money. Now, with Paul going to South Carolina, that should give him the African American. There it is. Looking as far as those bonuses there. Yeah, Paul has a little bit of a firmer advantage on African American at this time, but that could always change. He has a decent lead in Michigan. Again, Maryland would be a state to look for as far as another swing there. And again, he lost the high tech because of the steal of Maryland, but he is in Pennsylvania. So a simple third pip into Pennsylvania. He really doesn't need Maryland to get high tech at this point. But he has to make sure Michigan's defended, which it is. And my end turn button here is we're already at the turn 9 of this match. Renee Lit saying, I've been doing so badly in RHL, I don't think I have a chance. Well, Renee, it's still early in the RHL. It's only 2 games in. The Congress being an 18-game season. Little shameless plug for the RHL Congress. It's a long season, 18 matches, so you're not out of it by any stretch. And once we get into some more matches into the RHL Congress, I'll be doing some streaming of those matches as well. I know Javier is probably going to work. I know Javier must be working on getting some streams for the White House. But it's good to see, and referring to a quote that Renee had at the start of the match, it's good to see Raymund Baroy in a tournament like this, 1v1, to show his skills. He's a very good player, just from seeing the posts and the kind of matches he plays. But it was good to see him in this kind of a setting. Again, he had no easy matches in this tournament at all. You talk about beating James Bandolin, who's a very good player. When you talk about beating Tossin Lake, one of the elite players of the game, and he beat David Robinson. Uh, he he beat two RHL White House members on the way to the final. And if he beats Erik York, that'll take the hat trick of RHL White House members. So I've also been. It's always also. I was also glad to see Raymond enter this tournament and succeed as he has. Got about a minute 20 left in turn 9. Interesting to see what the next strategical move is for both players right now. I am so sorry about the yawning, guys. Heading down to the final 20 seconds of the turn. Here we go. Lock in the DC for Paul. Steal of Georgia for Tim Scott. Clash in Louisiana. A lot of steals, but that's the first real significant clash we've seen. Lock in of Maryland. Lock in of Michigan for Rand Paul. Steal Mississippi for Scott. That might get him Old South. Locks in North Carolina. Scott pressures New Hampshire. There's a third pip into Pennsylvania. That should give high tech to Rand Paul. Yep. Old South goes over to Scott. He gets African American back, and Paul gets high tech back. So a lot of swings in this match so far as bonuses. I gotta think. Be interesting to see what you guys think of what you think the next big move's gonna be. You gotta figure. Someone's got to pivot into Cali and Texas soon. I'll hit my end turn button here. See if anybody else is in the comments. You would have to figure Paul can make two pivots at this point. Well, yeah, he could make two pivots at this point with the way the map's looking right here. With Michigan locked down and having Pennsylvania in its grasp right now, he could go Texas to work towards manufacturing. Or with the high tech money, he could go to California. But the question is, which way do you go? Because either Texas or California would get you a big boost towards export. Not sure. If it were me, I believe Paul has an oil and gas. Oh, here we go. We'll find out. Goes into California. Another clash in Louisiana. Defense of Mississippi. There's Steele of New Hampshire by Scott. Not a lockdown, but pretty close. Steele of Utah by Scott. That might take away Town and Gown. Yep. So very savvy moves here by Tim Scott in this match. Very impressive. Getting New Hampshire and Utah away to solidify, to take away that Town and Gown bonus. Now, going into the third pip into Iowa would get the Town and Gown bonus back for Rand Paul. Hit my end turn button here. Now you gotta figure Texas would be a play for Tim Scott at this point. I don't anticipate Rand Paul wouldn't be able to get to that third pip in California this turn. He did make some inroads on the oil and gas states by going into North Dakota, and Oklahoma and West Virginia. Of course, without the North Dakota's a cheap spend, and Iowa's a cheap spend to get the Town and Gown back. Iowa would definitely get the Town and Gown back for him. North Dakota would be a little dicey. Got about halfway through turn 11 here. Very intriguing match so far. Again, this is between Raymund Baroy and Erik York. Raymund Baroy is Tim Scott, and Erik York is Rand Paul. Again, this is the buffed Tim Scott character that was just presented recently. Though I find it interesting that they already labeled 2024 for Scott and for Bernie. Here we go. Clash in Alaska. Big spend for Tim Scott here. But big spend for both players. There's that third pip into California, but Scott steals and locks in Delaware. Pressure in Iowa. Steal and lock into Louisiana for Scott. Lock into New Hampshire. See Paul going to some Latino states. Lock into New Mexico for Scott. There's a double pip into Texas for Scott there. Kind of anticipated that. And Town and Gown goes back to Rand Paul with that turn there. So a lot of ebb and flow in this match. A lot of things going, a lot of states going back and forth, bonuses going back and forth. So we're already up to turn 12. Now, the one thing for Paul, as far as working his way towards bonuses like Latino export, is that he already has that third pip into Cali and is not challenged, of course. And when you're starting to look at the other state groups that are available, of course, Scott is working his way towards manufacturing with Texas. Though I wonder if he could have. The one thing I would say about the play of going into Texas is that I would think if he went into Indiana and Kentucky, he could have in two turns gotten manufacturing without having to go into Texas and then using the manufacturing money to get Texas. Just a thought of that. I thought about that last turn. Wow, and basically Rand Paul's just a breath away from export. But I don't think he's in any states. Got 2 minutes left to go in turn 12. And Wyoming. Should have taken an energy drink before this match. About a minute and a half left in turn 12. Very good match. Very well played match so far. Not that I would expect anything less. Of course, for Raymond, it's already Saturday afternoon over there where he is. I appreciate him being able to coordinate the match with Erik to get this match going. Because Lord knows time zones can get tricky. Steal and lockdown of Alabama for Rand Paul. Scott gets into Alaska. There's oil and gas for Tim Scott, and agriculture and manufacturing. And the Latino goes to Paul. Which leaves one state group left, which is export. And Paul wasn't able to make any headway as far as export in that turn. And now Scott has a decent cash advantage over 300, almost 350,000. 340, give or take a thou, too. We're at lucky turn 13 of this match. See Chase Moss in the comments. Good to see Chase in, good to see Chase in here. I'm assuming Chase is referring about the Delaney comment by reading what he wrote in there. Chase saying I'm waiting for the late night owl to start. I haven't heard much from Tyler Demore recently. Speaking of which, of course, as I always stress about this game, real life takes precedence over anything that happens here. Um, I know Tyler. I haven't seen Tyler really post much in the lounge this week, but again, uh, with our with our lives seeming like they're busier in a pandemic, which is kind of interesting and ironic at the same time. Lord knows my life's wall to wall. But I digress. Actually kind of like Tim Scott's position here. A little more than I do Rand Paul's. He's starting to get coverage in states. He's made key steals. when it comes to North Carolina and locking that and Louisiana in so he could get the oil and gas bonus. About a minute and a half left in turn 13. You got figured now with that cash, it gives Tim Scott options. He could spend middle of the road. Um, he could also decide to put some pressure. He could pressure Texas if he really wants to. Here we go. Lock in of Alaska. Pressure in Colorado. Lock in of Georgia. I'll have to get an electoral vote. Electoral vote count, not vote code. I don't think we have enough for. There's a clash in Maine. It looks like Scott was maybe trying to get towards a ballot here with the moves that he's made. There's a clash in Nebraska. He gets into Nevada. Clash in Oregon. A low spend, well, about average spend for Rand Paul there, about a little over half of his money. And you see Scott spent about 2/3 of his money. There's export for Rand Paul, which means now all the state groups are accounted for. Scott has 6 of the 10. And again, he has a decent cash advantage over Rand Paul at this point. Let's get a quick look at the electorals. You could tell that it looked like Scott was trying to push a ballot possibly, but I don't think he would have been I don't think we had enough electorals. 3, 14, 19, 27, 36, 52, 67, 80, 90, 93, 90. We're actually at even 100. So that looked like a tactical move for Tim Scott. He knew what would get to 100 votes. I think he was trying to get to 100 votes and get all the states pipped in to get to a quick ballot, which is a smart move. But there were 4 states that were clashed in: Nebraska, Oregon, Maine. I don't think Hawaii's been entered into. No, Hawaii has. I apologize. He got it set as part of his ballot push. So is it just 3 states? Maine, Oregon, Nebraska. And I believe that's it. No pressure in Florida or New York, curiously enough. You usually have a match where you'll see pressure in one of those states to try and gain an advantage. Yeah, I think I'm going to write my blog piece tomorrow. Probably write it tomorrow night. It's going to be a little later for me because I have a little later night at work tomorrow night, but I'll write my blog piece tomorrow to give a recap of the last 2 nights' championship match recap. And again, previewing the independents and runners-up tournaments. About a minute left in turn 14. I'll check the comments again after this turn goes through. Again, I still like Tim Scott's position here. Be interesting to see what happens. Maybe if you're Rand Paul, you maybe put a pip in Florida just to kind of make him think about it. Either a pip in Florida or a pip in Texas. You do have Latino bonus you could pressure Texas with. Even if you're just thinking about doing that as a bluff. Down to the last 20 seconds, turn 14. A great match so far by both players. Here we go. Lock in of Colorado for Tim Scott. There's the Pippin of Florida from Rand Paul. Just to make Scott have to think about defending it. See if Scott has diamond hands. Steal of Iowa and lock in for Scott. That might take Town and Gown again away from... No, I guess North Dakota. There's a lock-in of North Dakota. Lock-in of Nevada for Rand Paul. And Scott pressures New York. So they both do some pressuring into those two states we were just talking about. Steal of Oklahoma for Scott. Steal of South Dakota for Scott. Steal of West Virginia for Scott. And Wyoming. Using that oil and gas as of yet. Now, if you're Erik York here, would you consider trying to push for a ballot here? The pressure I anticipated into New York and Florida last turn, I was correct on. Not that I'm right about much, but you knew it was only a matter of time before those states were pressured, and to give each player something else to think about. I believe, well, Oregon's still open. Nobody touched Oregon, nobody touched Maine, and nobody touched Nebraska, ironically enough. Though I really think, as I hit my end turn button here, is we're at turn 15. Kind of curious to see who benefits from a ballot push here. Chase was asking how the state groups look. Scott has a 6-4 advantage in state groups. Paul has North Dakota. Town and Gown, Export, High Tech, Latino. Scott has the rest. But he is in a pretty decent... Scott isn't... I still like Scott's position here. Ever since about turn 8 or 9 of the match, he's really done some moving around, some effective moves. He was able to get to Texas to get to get a lot of bonuses when he got that third pip in Texas. But now what do? You got a minute and a half left in turn 15. Do you think maybe Rand pushes for a ballot here? Try to do a low spend ballot push and then have as much cash as he can for the ballot turn. Into the last minute of turn 15. Again, a very good match that's developing here. We're over 100 electoral votes. Here we go. Steal Connecticut and lock in for Rand Paul. There's the defense of Florida from Scott. Big steal and lock in of Illinois by Paul. There's Maine. There's one of the states has to be entered in. Nebraska is the second. Steal of New Jersey for Tim Scott. In defense of Ohio. We will have a ballot on this next turn coming up. Steal of Utah, which is countered by a steal of Washington. So we are going to have a ballot on turn 16. This turn coming up will determine who the Senators Tournament champion will be. Here we go. The problem now with Rand Paul is he needs 44, a net gain of 44 electoral votes, but he's just shy of $600,000 of cash to play with, and of course some of that money's tied up in bonuses. Trying to see if he has any kind of path that will get him there. I would imagine. Take a look at the map real quick before I hit my end turn. Of course, obviously, he's going to need to flip states. A state he could flip would be Missouri. There's 10. Trying to incorporate with the bonuses that he has what realistic steals he can make. Pennsylvania's pretty much taken for. Maybe get into some of the other town and gowns. Vermont, Rhode Island. Maybe make a play for Minnesota, but that's with needing 44 votes, that might be tricky. Do one more quick check of the comments before this ballot turn. Chase saying Tom Scott is definitely in the better position, but Paul might make a comeback. I think if Paul had a little more cash, I'd be a little more optimistic. Scott has an almost $400,000 cash advantage, which could serve him well as far as defending what he has. An interesting state, maybe it could have been a flip, would have been Wisconsin, but Paul did not get into Wisconsin. But he's in a majority of the other states. Obviously, you're not going to go into Texas at this. You wouldn't have gone to Texas before a ballot, so. But other than that, they're in each other's states. Tennessee, he didn't get in on Tennessee, which is 11 votes. As we're winding down to the last minute of the match. Yep, we're less than a minute. Whoever wins this match is a deserving champion. Both players went through pretty tough fields for a 16-player tournament, as I mentioned earlier. Raymond is a little more difficult, in all honesty, but that's how you get to be great players, defeating the great players. We're in the last 30 seconds. Again, you need a net gain of 44 for Rand Paul here. Let's see if he can pull a rabbit out of the hat here. Here we go. Defense of Arkansas. Steal of Hawaii for Rand Paul. There's 4. Steel of Idaho, there's another 4. Steel of Kansas. Ooh, a Steel of Maine by Scott. Paul decides not to go into Missouri. Clash in Montana. Clash in Nebraska. Paul needs 34 and he's running out of states. There's a Steel of Oregon. There's 7. Steel of Rhode Island, another 4. But a Steel of South Carolina by Tim Scott. That's where that money advantage comes into play. Steel of Vermont. It's not going to happen here. Steel of Washington. And that's going to do it. Paul was able to get 27, but it's not going to be enough. And congratulations goes out to Raymund Baroy. He wins the Senators Tournament Championship by defeating Erik York 285 to 253. Kudos to Erik York for making it this far. As it seems like last year in the first Tournament of Champions event, he made a couple finals of preliminaries and wasn't able to get over the hump. Doesn't get over the hump in this one, but Erik, I expect to see Erik in other preliminaries to see if he can get his way through. But kudos to Raymund. And I can't stress enough how good it's been to see him in tournament action here. And again, Raymund beat a pretty impressive field when you look at it. To have to go through James Bandoline, Tossin Lake, David Robinson, and now Erik York, you've accomplished something. My hat is off to you, Raymund. You played so well. It'll be great to see you in the final bracket of the Tournament of Champions, which you are. And I think you're definitely going to be forced to be reckoned with. Raymund saying, "Well played, Erik. My head hurts. I need a rest." Hey, I mean, yeah, you got a headache out of it, but you played a really fine match. Well played. So, like I said, this opens the door for the next 2 preliminary tournaments to get started in a couple days. I will be revealing those brackets tomorrow night. Again, probably on the later side. As now I can start working on brackets. I'll probably start working on the brackets tomorrow morning before I go to work. And hopefully have them finished, go to work, come back, get a fresh set of eyes, make sure I have everybody where I want them. And I will release the brackets tomorrow night. And when I release the brackets for those tournaments, play can start immediately for those tournaments because I've been gearing towards Sunday starts for them. But of course, if it's a player that's from overseas, Saturday night is their Sunday morning. So that'll work out for them as well. But one more time, Raymund Baroy defeats Erik York 285 to 253. He is the 8th person to qualify for the Tournament of Champions final bracket. And now we await the other 8 that will join them. This is Chad Harris. Thank you very much, everybody, for watching the stream and putting in their comments. I appreciate everything. And I will see everybody on the flip side. Stay safe. Have a good night, everybody.